So Chad wrote this several weeks ago. I had started a process where I was writing a little chronicle of my life history, and it went along with this. I got to when I was entering college, and that writing had stopped because I just gave out energy and just didn't have energy. That's why I'm sitting here today to do it. So I hope to get back on it pretty soon. And John, one more talent you have. I'm enjoying your chair. I just saw John a while ago. I said, I've never seen anybody with so much talent. But anyway, this testimony is, I didn't have anything to go by. I've heard testimonies and usually tear-jerking things, and I don't think this will be tear-jerking. And one day I was on Edward Fudge's website, and I saw a testimony by Edward about he and his wife, and I sort of used that as an outline, and that's got me started. So bear with me, and I hope you get something out of it. I was the fourth child of Wilburn Gross and Mary Elizabeth White. My father was born in eastern Kentucky, southern eastern Kentucky, in the coal mining country, and they were mainly more common with tobacco raising and et cetera. He was a very smart individual, but he stopped his education in the 6th grade. So in eastern Kentucky, southern eastern Kentucky, education was not a big thing. So he joined the CCC, that's a Civilian Conservation Corps. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. One of the FDR's programs to revise our economy. Their job was to build roads, and he came to Alabama building Highway 72. And I went down Highway 72 with Daddy. He would always tell me, well, right there where we got our paycheck, and there, and he'd do those every road. And all the roads of Tennessee, southern Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, he knows about. His best friend was George Hardy, who was dating Lenny White. Now, Lenny was the sister of my mother, Mary Elizabeth White. The White family was a big clan of western limestone canyons that farmers. I used to go to the city square with my granddaddy, and everybody in the world knew him, and I was always amazed by that. But anyway, Daddy met Mother through Lenny. Mother and Daddy was married by Brother Creel. Creel was one of the Creel clans of Church of Christ preachers. I don't know if any of y'all remember them or not, but he was holding a meeting in Greenbrier, and Daddy and Mother was born in Greenbrier at 10th meeting, I think. A lot of members of the White family, Burton White, Wilson White, Ed and Arthur White, and many more, but those are the ones who lived here. As the CCC, or the Civilian Conservation Corps, was disbanded, my daddy had other construction jobs, and he found himself in Indiana. And we visited, when I was a young boy, Indiana, and to see a lot of his construction friends, and he knew every road there. They were there, and that's when my oldest sister, Gayla, was born. And eventually they found their way back to the south in Athens, and he went to work at Redstone Arsenal. And he would remain there until he retired in his 60s. But after he had been there a little while, they transferred him to Alabama Ordnance. That's in Childersburg, Alabama. If any of y'all know anything about Childersburg, Alabama, it was known as the meanest town this side of Phoenix City. And we all know about the history of Phoenix City, but it was quite a mean town, but we enjoyed it. And I was very young. I was not in school, and I spent a lot of time with my mother and et cetera. In fact, when we was there in Chillsburg, Alabama, Wilford Clark held a meeting at the congregation. And when West Hyde Street hired Winford several years ago, my daddy reminded me of that. He said, well, he held a meeting for us at Chillsburg Church of Christ. And, of course, I was a young boy. That may have been the night I went to sleep in church and ate a bug. I don't know. But my early life was spent going to church, family activities, and vacation Bible schools. That was a routine. My mother stressed following the Bible in early days, and she told us to treat others as we would treat ourselves, and she taught us the Bible very seriously. And when the four children, would get in an argument, she would end up with a prayer. I have three siblings, 2 older sisters and 1 older brother. After I returned from Chillsburg, Alabama, my school year started. I was about 5 and a half, or somewhere near there. The Bible school was out of for cotton picking time. People nowadays don't remember cotton picking time, but I do, because my mother and daddy sent my brother and I to the cotton fields with her brothers, and we learned a lot of good work in the cotton fields. I used to have fun with my patients. I used to ask them, name the hardest thing than picking cotton. I knew the answer. It was chopping cotton. Chopping it was, but anyway, if they didn't know that, I knew that they didn't work as hard as they thought that they had. I started my school years at Athens high school system, but I transferred after the Bible school started back in the 1st grade, and I attended Bible school until the seventh grades, 6th grades, and I went through to cotton picking time in 7th grade when I transferred to the Athens City school system. All those who are familiar with Bible school, that was a good learning experience for me. It was good discipline. I learned self-discipline because a lot of memory work was involved. I'm going to lose my slides. I'm going to take them while I catch up. Got pages crossed up. A lot of memory work. We read the Bible every day and memorized a lot. And I remember in the 2nd and 3rd grade, I quoted Matthew 5, 6, and 7 at Grant Street Church of Christ. We had a program in the 3rd grade, 2nd grade, I think it was. I stood up before Grant Street and quoted that. And we lived across the black community on Highway 72, and Brother Rollins, you all know him, he taught us about civil rights before there was a civil rights movement. He's always, and we lived across, and my best friend was Albert, who later one of my patients told me he knew about him, and he had become a street person in Chicago. But little Albert would eat cornbread in my house, and I would eat cornbread in his house. His grandmother was Aunt Jeannie, an old ex-African slave, and one day before I went to school, I was going to cross the highway to take her a dinner to her, and struck by a car, and luckily I survived. But mother was the center of my upbringing, spiritual upbringing, etc. As I entered the high school, I started turning my attention more toward the affair of sex. And my eye caught a pretty female that wore her hair She doesn't wear it that way anymore. She had a ponytail and turned up over her head. I don't know what you call it. I think she called it page boy, I think that name comes in. And that was a prettiest sight I ever saw. And so we began a relationship and began dating that continued through my senior year. And I went to Auburn and lived at the Christian Student Center in Auburn. And Sherry came to Auburn too. And in my third year at Auburn, I graduated and went on to medical school. And in my second year of medical school, I asked Sherry to marry me, and she did. We first lived in a little apartment, one bedroom, kitchenette, about as big as, not as big as most people's bathrooms, and where we had our living room. And our second year, we got to move in a two-bedroom apartment. We always, every time we moved somewhere, we always selected our home congregation. In Birmingham, we selected Homewood Church of Christ. And it's a very good church, and it's a very huge church now. But Sherry's was like my mother. She's always one step ahead of me. I was busy in school, and the young people at Homewood started meeting together at home meetings and et cetera, and having Bible studies, and sort of like we did at Hop Street that led to the creation of Valley. Of course, the elders did not agree with that, and some other people didn't, but we continued. And we continued that relationship a year or so later. Sherry would love those home meetings, and in fact, I think she went to one or two after we moved to Athens. But anyway, a bunch of the young people at Homewood came to Athens one year, and we had a meeting at Sherry's house, home, on Forest Street. Then my third year in medical school, I went to Mayo Clinic to study. I was, as then in the 60s, late 60s, cardiovascular surgery was the thing. Dr. Kildare was on TV, et cetera, so everybody wanted to be a cardiovascular surgeon. Well, I was very good at surgery, and I was pretty smart, and I was good at suturing. And I could do everything John Kirkland wanted me to do, and so I went to Mayo Clinic to study both surgery and cardiovascular surgery. In fact, I saw my first pancreatic cancer at Mayo Clinic. A lady who came in who was from Peru. They're American, but their husband ran a copper mine in Peru, and she looked like copper. She was that jaundice, but it was pancreatic cancer. And I always told Sherry, one thing I never wanted to have was pancreatic cancer because it's late when you detect it and it didn't respond well to surgery, to treatment. But also at Rochester, Minnesota, Church of Christ, there was a couple there that later became a cardiovascular surgeon, and he practiced in Tuscaloosa. I think he's still there. So every time you go somewhere, you go to church, you see people you know, and et cetera. So the last day at Mayo Clinic is the third week in September. I had just spent the day before several hours with the chief of cardiovascular surgery. We'd done transposition of the great vessel of the heart of a young Mexico boy, and it was his second operation. You have to do it in stages. Then, I don't know about now. And it was all set up for me. All I had to do was sign the papers when I get back to Birmingham on a matching program, and I was headed back to Rochester. But I got up the next morning to go to the airport, knee-deep in snow, fur collar-lined coat, flew into Birmingham, short sleeve weather. Auburn was playing Tennessee that week. We always play 3 weeks. It was short sleeve weather. And I said, cardiovascular surgery was only done in Birmingham then. It was not done even in Mobile and Huntsville. That came later. So I decided that was not for me. I did not like that weather. So I decided to do a rotating internship and do a year of general practice to see what I wanted to do. So I did a rotating internship and went and did a year of general practice here in Athens, 1971. At that time, Sherry and I chose Hop Street Church as a home congregation, and quite active with the young people then, but they were not as active as they later became. But since I loved surgery, and I wanted to be a surgeon, and I felt like I should go back for additional training, so I selected a field that you have surgery, medicine, and obstetrics. So you could be a real doctor. So I chose to go back to Tulane University, Tulane at New Orleans, and to do my residency. In New Orleans, we chose New Orleans Church of Christ, which was, we lived in Metairie, which is west of New Orleans, but New Orleans Church of Christ was in downtown New Orleans. And got to know good. It wasn't as big as the church we have around here, but it was quite active. One of the elders was the brother of one of the board members of Harding College in Arkansas, and one elder on the what's the name of that restaurant where we ate, L&G or something like that. They were quite active. But we heard the guy from Harding about every 6 months. He was very good. He would come there and speak. At New Orleans, we have different. If anybody knows about Louisiana, you have charity hospitals. I guess they still have one, I don't know. Charity hospital was one of the charity hospitals in a lot of the other communities. I was assigned my first year. My people on my staff knew I was good in surgery. They knew I knew how to do cesarean sections already, had been a freshman. So they elevated me pretty soon, and they assigned me to Lolly Camp. Lolly Camp is in Independence, Louisiana, known as the strawberry capital of the world. That's about one wide street and a big warehouse, strawberries, and that's about it. A church was in an adjoining town, and I forget the name of that church. It wasn't, I don't know if Sherry remembers or not, but we'd drive to that town Sunday for our worship services. Also, New Orleans had an association with the Las Vegas medical community. A lot of the residents had ended up there, so they had Tulane would send the residents to Las Vegas to take care of the injured patients in obstetrics and surgery, etc. I was elected to go for 4 months. We did a lot of surgery. And the more they saw I could do, the more they gave me to do. But it was a good experience. Sherry and I, you will not believe this, but Las Vegas Church of Christ was a pretty big church. Out on the highway west going toward California, and we went there numerous times, and it was typical Church of Christ worship service, but it was very nice. Well, I returned to Charity Hospital, and enslaved labor, pay was very, very low, and the shifts were 24 hours every other day. Oftentimes, I come home and I fall asleep, and Sherry won't know what was wrong. She thought it was her or something, but I could not stay up very much. I was at bed early and up early, 24 hours every other day. A lot of experience. During that time, I went to summer camp in Army Reserves to spent in Denver, and came back from that, and that's when our first son was conceived, and he was born in New Orleans. Sherry was a super mom. She went to, here I was a chief resident in obstetrics, but here I came home one night, she said she was going to natural childbirth classes, you know, and that was not all that accepted then. And I raised my eyebrow, but I went with her. And I learned a lot, and I brought that with me when I came back from New Orleans to Athens. And in fact, a lot of my patients the first 2 years were from Tennessee, Huntsville, Decatur, etc. And she also introduced me to breastfeeding, which was getting very back into the mode of things, and that was very successful, and I supported that, and that a lot of my patients did too. We again chose West Hop Street as our home congregation, but at that time we had some transfer of people. Mike Davis, I don't know if Mike's here this morning, and Phillips and others had come from one of those congregations, I think Central and to Hop Street, and they were teaching class, and we go in their classes, such thought-provoking. We went to Auburn one weekend for a ball game, but Sherry told me we was going to get up early the next morning and come back to Athens, so we would not meet. I think Mike was teaching that day, and not miss his class. So we got up early, and we made it. You know, the hour driving to Auburn is anywhere. It depends on how you drive. It could be anywhere from 3.5 to 4 hours, or 4.5 before interstate. So we made it in time. It was an interesting class. My class is always thought-provoking, and it was well worth it. I just thought of something. It's amazing how all the time you come to worship and the songs go along what your thoughts are in your brain and mind, but whoever's speaking, there's one thank you God and several others. Well, right along what I have in my mind. Sherry, when they started a young group meeting at Hop Street, she got to go more than I did, but I went to some. And then the valley was formed when we met out at the hotel. I was a deacon at Hop Street, and I did not want to make the move that time. But one Sunday morning, the minister put a target on the board. I don't know if y'all was there or not. A blackboard behind it had a target, and Valley was the center of that target. So I decided it was time for me to hand in my letter of resignation, which I did, and that's when I started worshiping at Valley. But my life has had a place for God and Christ since birth. My mother stressed that my early days, and that has continued. And every time we moved somewhere, we always selected a home congregation. Always try to find one close to home if we could. In Saudi Arabia, I met with fellow Christians, and we had a little Bible study. And we got special permission in an Arab country, Islamic country, on Easter Sunday morning to go out on the desert to have a worship service. And you'd be surprised how many of us went. But it was out there on Easter Sunday, and seeing that sun come up in the east, it was quite amazing. It's also, when I was in Saudi Arabia, I noticed that the first night I was there, we had a bomb scare, and we had not been instructed what to do, so we all went to the wrong place, went down to the storm cellar type thing, the place we live. But soon we've learned that was not the thing to do. But it was amazing how many scud warnings we had. And it's amazing how people react to scuds. We had one morning, one day I walked in from my duties, and I taken on my Kevlar helmet, and so I undressed my shirt and trousers and all except my undershorts, and a huge explosion went off. And I had somebody come in, incoming. I didn't know what they were talking about. I thought it was another scud, so I grabbed my Kevlar and run downstairs, and we had a motor pool next door to us, and something had exploded over there. So, but anyway, when we had these scud attacks, it didn't bother me. I got a picture at home. I was showing my family the other day. We had some family members from Texas in, and under a little sofa. If you think a sofa is going to protect you from a scud, you got a little thing. 2 people on the scud. I'm sitting up there in a chair taking pictures, but it seemed like the people who did not have a sense of where they were going was more alarmed than the others. So it didn't bother me, but I don't recommend that a way to get to test your faith. But I've had a good life and no regrets. I was fortunate to have great parents introduce me to God in Christ early in life and included Him in our lives. I had 2 great siblings. I have 3 great siblings. 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters and 1 older brother. And I had a virtuous mother. At her funeral, Psalms 31 was read. I thought I would never forget that. And the other night, it's been how many years? Sure, 20 years. Because I was in New Orleans in a residency, and I had to call my sister. It was Psalms 31. If you want to read about a virtuous woman, that's a good scripture. I married a virtuous woman, and I have 2 great daughters. I have 2 great children, and a great son-in-law. My son has sort of become a biblical scholar in his own right. He often tells his mother and I what the Bible says about so-and-so, so that's a blessing. Several verses have become my favorite in the Bible. The main one is John. I'm sure this is a lot of people. John 3:16. And if you ever think you have a problem with pride and it's overcoming you, I always think about 1 Timothy 6:6 and James 4:5, I believe it is. I forgot to write it down. No, James 4:6, I did write it down. 5:5, 1 Peter 5:5, James 4:5, and 1 Timothy 6:6. Also, I have become a friend of Max Lucado since I read his first book. Sherry introduced that to me, and I read the book. But Max Lucado, in his summer, he talked about selling Bibles in Florida. So I just assumed he went to Florida College in Tampa, and I was talking to Edward Fudge by email the other day, and said it would be nice if Florida College would have you there. They could raise a lot of money. They always try to raise money, and he corrected me that Max Lucado did not go to Florida College. He went somewhere else. But both of them went to Hardin, I believe it Hardin, one of those colleges in Arkansas, and got their master's or something. But anyway, Max Lucado, he can write things very well, but he every day has a daily comment, and I just get it on email. And this morning, I went to it this morning because I thought it'd be good, and it was godliness with contentment is a great, I can't read my writing, is a great gain, I think that's what it was. But I have learned to be content. I have no regrets. The good Lord just told me that I wasn't in control. He's in control. And I'm just, accept what he gives me. But, well, I enjoyed sharing this with you. I hope it didn't bore you to death. And I didn't break down, y'all didn't break down, so we're okay.